a real fire of truth. Because to function from the truth of our being and not go back into old identities and identifications and old emotional patterns, in order not to do that when we go back into relationship with life and with each other, we have to come upon a willingness to surrender completely to being what we are. That sounds really simple. So simple it sounds ridiculous. And actually it is ridiculously simple. But for some reason, most human beings find it ridiculously hard. Ridiculously difficult. When we look into the nature of this which we are, into the purity of spirit, this is what a lot of people I notice miss, is even if they awaken to the truth of their being, they miss how does this, which is no thing, live in this life. Because of course this life is just a manifestation of that same nothingness. It's a manifestation of spirit. These bodies are, your feelings, even your thoughts, the rug you're sitting on. You want to see enlightenment? Just reach down and touch the rug. That's it too. Everything is just an expression of that. But how does that, when it's realized, how does it relate with itself? How does it relate? Because that's what it does now, relate to itself, not to others, even though there's the appearance of others, and even the experience of others. But how does it relate to itself? I'd invite you to look for yourself. Because when you look for yourself, this that's our true nature, this that's pure, radiant emptiness, is not moved by ideas, it's not moved by opinions, it's not moved by judgment, it's not moved by ideologies, it's not moved by all the stuff that we're so used to being moved by in the world. Now how do we operate? If we're not operating from an idea, from a hope, from a goal, from an ideology, now how do we operate? How do we relate? If you come up with an idea, it's just another idea, and that's not how the truth moves. So you can't write it in a book. You can't write an instruction manual. Here's how God moves when God's not confused. We know how God moves when God's confused. Right? Just turn on the TV. That's how God moves when God is confused. Think of the last argument you had with yourself or your neighbor or your loved one. That's how it moves when it's confused, right? It's still the divine. It's perfectly fine. It's just in confused form. But how does it move when it's not confused? The Taoists have the best way of speaking about the truth moving, the movement of the Tao. Most religions don't do a very good job at all because they're so fixated on the eternal. But that's just the beginning. Once you get the eternal part down, then you get to see how the eternal moves. You feel how it moves, because that which is ever present and still is also moving, even as it's still. And we only can feel that when we're quiet. It's an inward movement, almost an inward movement of energy. It moves left, it moves right. It says this, it says that. It doesn't say this, it doesn't say that. It doesn't move for ideas or reasons. This is a whole different way to be moved. This intelligence of the source. In Zen we call it prajna, heart wisdom. But it's not wisdom up here in the mind, it's a spontaneous movement of truth before mind. Have you ever noticed that the truest voice within you is the easiest one to discount? It never puts up an argument. If it's the truth, it never puts up an argument. You can listen to it or not. Right? It's just like a gift. Here it is. Here it is, right? You go on the third date. He or she is gorgeous. That little voice says, "This is better left alone." You're familiar with this. And then you go. But that voice is so easy to not listen to, right? Because if you can push it aside like you're pushing aside a feather, and it won't complain and it won't say, "Hey, listen." And if you ask it, why shouldn't I pursue this? It won't tell you. It won't justify itself. So then we start to listen to other voices. Then we hear like the egoic voice. And that voice will always justify itself, argue its point, make a convincing stance. So go, well, this one's just quiet, it's a gift, doesn't seem to have much power in it, it doesn't care. But this one will argue until, the end of time. This one must be true. Or, I just want to go with this one. Which one wins out in the end? In the end. Not at the beginning, in the end. Right. Isn't it true? It's the still small one. The one that didn't care if you threw it away. Why? It knew it was going to win out. It always wins out. That's the truth. The truth always wins. The only matter is, it just takes more time. It's kind of like those old Midas commercials. Pay me now, pay me later. 30 seconds of grief now, 20 years of misery tomorrow. But you'll come back to the same place. It always went. That's in one sense, that's the comforting thing about the truth. We can't actually get away from it. It's always what's going on. It always wins out. Nobody actually can get lost. The only thing that you can be assured of is that everybody wakes up. Nobody can avoid the truth of their being forever. It's the only guarantee there is. That's why anybody who's ever been truly awake has been totally without anxiety about whether awakening will happen to everybody. Because it can't not. And in one sense, it already has. We just realize that it already has. As Ramana said, the only thing you need to do to be self-realized is to get rid of the idea that you're not self-realized. He didn't say, go around saying to yourself, I am self-realized. See, because when we're actually realized, that's the last thing on our mind. If we're walking around wondering, thinking how holy we are, we're just trying to convince ourselves. But when it's not an issue at all, then this is significant. Of course, this is a different way. This way that the truth moves is, we could also call this love. I don't call it love at the beginning because then everybody looks for that nice, sweet, gushy feeling inside that has got you in trouble so many times you can't even count. That's not necessarily the love that I'm speaking about. But that's what actually moves us, is this love. The truth is always inclined towards what's whole, towards peace, towards itself. And this is our true nature. Not an ideal out here to even strive for, but something that's waiting to be recognized. It's already present. Oh. Good night.
Good night.
Namaste.